pretending to be someone that you're not supposed to be, and most of the times in order to commit fraud or other crimes. It is done usually as a method to gain advantage, financial advantage, to obtain credit card and other benefits in the other person's name. The person whose identity has been assumed may suffer adverse consequences, especially if they are held responsible for the perpetrator's actions. Under the name of Adan, I'll go and initiate a DDoS attack. Not a DDoS, a DOS attack. So Adan will be responsible. Adan will be the one who will go to jail. Because after all, in the first place, Adan was supposed to use a secure network and protect the personal data and stuff like that, so that nobody can get his personal data. All right, so that was chapter 8. We're gonna go over the objectives to see whether we've met all of them or not. Are you guys recording?
Yes, miss.
Okay, good. So, describe common physical safety issues and what causes them. Physical safety, cables, cabling, shelving, physical firewalls, and stuff like that. Describe simple strategies for preventing common physical safety issues. So you're supposed to protect yourself through, make sure that there's no electrical overload and stuff like that. Evaluate your own use of IT equipment and develop strategies to minimize the potential safety risks. That we talked about, your own physical safety precautions at home and also in the labs and in the school as a general. Explain what is meant by personal data and why personal data should be confidential and protected. We've been talking about this for this whole time. Be sure to make sure that you're able to define what personal data is and why should we protect our personal data. It is very clearly stated in the book and also in the slides, because there are questions. There will be questions regarding personal data. Explain how to avoid inappropriate disclosure of personal data by evaluating your own use of internet and social networking sites, and discuss why e-safety is needed. Understand what effective security of data and what security of data online is. Discuss the effectiveness of different methods of increasing security: authentication, validation, verification, biometrics, password, usernames, digital certificates, and stuff like that. Any questions? So that was the end of chapter 8. We're gonna start chapter 9. Barrez Berzi, quoi? Barrez Berzi, Erin, Amir, and Dustin, I am missing your surveys. So please make sure that you submit your first.
Field submitted by tonight, right?
But that is the final draft. The
We're talking
first draft was due last week.
we did. I'm pretty sure we did submit the first draft.
Amir was supposed to do some of the.
Yeah,
I don't have
said he
anything.
submitted the first draft.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, because we checked, it was perfect. It was ready and he was supposed to submit it.
I'm not accepting email, and this is the This is my Google Classroom. And here is the survey topic. And here is the first draft. So Amir, Barrez, Berzi, Dustin, Aaron, all missing.
Miss Amir was supposed to submit it. I think he might have forgotten to submit it. We're gonna tell him, okay? Sorry
Maybe.
about that.
Yeah, it's fine. Secondly, I wanted to grade Shadiar. What is Shadiar's name here? Who's this Tempest?
It's Shadyar.
Okay, so this one is Shadiar. All right. So without any further ado, let's start.
Miss, Amir saying I gave it to her on the Discord server.
How am I supposed to check this? Pope, who's?
No, I think on this server, the one that we're at right now. Yeah, IGCS year 10.
So in this group chat,
Supposedly.
how am I supposed to be able to keep track of this? Okay, anyways, I'll accept it, but please make sure that you submit it to the Google Classroom so that I give you feedback, okay? Now, audience. Chapter 9 is a fairly easy chapter, okay? Not necessarily very easy. It's pretty easy compared to other chapters. Compared to chapters 7 and 8, it is much easier. All right. By the way, I have posted another homework for next week that is due next Sunday. Not today, but the Sunday after. These are questions regarding chapter 8. All right. For you to answer, review questions and homework. All right. This final question that says define intellectual property is in chapter 9. All right. This is not chapter 8. This is in chapter 9. You can go ahead and kind of look for the answer in chapter 9, or you can just Google it and then paste the answer and paste it to the homework section, classwork section, whichever you go. All right. Who is that?
Singularity.
Who's Singularity?
Miss, I think it's Dylan.
All right. Now, chapter 9, audience. So this chapter regards, for example, if you give, let's consider the simplest example. If you give a presentation, okay? If you give your presentation or prepare your lesson for year ones, primary students, or year ones, or age range of 5 and 6, it will be different if you prepare the same topic of presentation or any other presentation to groups of the age range of, for example, 20 to 25, like university students. So that's why it's important to consider your audience. If you develop a software, you should know, you should consider your target audience, who you are targeting. Is this software like of a learning kind of software for children, or is it a more sophisticated learning kind of software for teenagers, or a more advanced one for universities, for university students, or people If you develop a website, is this website educational? If it's educational, what is my target audience? Parents or students? Students of what age? Okay, what kind of parents? Are they able to speak English? The languages that they can speak. So regarding whatever, this happens in it's more of a business kind of thing. It is very greatly talked about in business. So here we're doing business after all. We're developing software, we're trying to sell software, we're developing a website for a customer, we're getting paid. So we want our customers to be satisfied. And in order for them to be satisfied, you have to consider your customers or your audience. Audience appreciation 9.1. So you should take your audience into consideration in terms of what are the factors that you consider when you develop a software or when you give a presentation. What are the audience factors that you consider? The age range, the gender, the experience of your audience, the expectation of your audience, and then knowledge of your previous knowledge of your audience. When you guys started ICT, I was talking about hardware and software. All right. Regardless of the fact that I considered your age, all right, but I also considered your knowledge. Even though some of you are supposed to know hardware and software, but some of you didn't know about hardware and software, so I had to go over it. So that is your previous knowledge, your audience's previous knowledge. Experience. The more you are in the field of ICT, some of you have taken ICT since year 1, some of you have taken it since year 7, others since year 9, some others you started this year. So, and through time, when you're with me, your experience in ICT changes. So the lessons that I'm preparing, the type of the explanations that I usually give changes. I now, instead of focusing on hardware software, I focus on other things. Instead of previously, I used to focus on hardware software or some other basic terms rather than other things. Not mentioning that any of them is, none of them are less important. Both of them, everything is important. It's just your experience that has changed, that changes my style of teaching. So I have to reflect on that in order for you guys to be comfortable with me and take my class, you know, easily, in a more easily way. Okay.
Miss,
Vale.
I still don't get the audience appreciation.
It's the audience appreciation is just the title of the section.
Ne, o
I
işler
don't know.
takırtıya geçtim.
Okay.
Tine
But
geçtim sonra.
for example, it says you have to consider your audience whatever you do. Whether you're developing a software, talking about IT, okay? Develop a software, create a website, give a presentation, all right? You have to consider your audience. What are the things in your audience that you consider? What are the factors? In other words, what are the factors? What are the factors in the audience that you are considering? So you should consider their age, okay? Because if you give a presentation to children, it will be different if you give a presentation to adults. You should consider their gender. If it's all women, then you might design your presentation in the colors that you might be using would be pink and red and colors like that. The experience of your audience. So do the people in the audience have any experience with the presentation, with the topic that you're presenting? For example, if you're presenting mobile phones, a new version of Galaxy S, a new version of Galaxy. So you are considering your audience to have experience in using phones. You don't need to go ahead and talk about something like, oh, you can use this phone to make phone calls. You don't say such a thing. Okay? And the expectations of your audience. Sometimes they have very high expectation, especially if you go to a job interview. You give a presentation for a job interview. Okay? When we do micro teaching at our school, they have really high expectation. They expect you to be really good. So you have to be very prepared. Otherwise, if I give presentation to children, I don't really care that much, you know? And then the knowledge. So it will be different if I give this presentation to a group of people who are IT majors in their final year of university, compared to if I give it to a group of people of the same age, but who are English literature major in their final year. So what previous knowledge regarding this specific topic they have. You understand? Daro?
Yes, miss.
So if you know these things determine what? Determine the language that you use, determine the multimedia that you use. Do you use, images a lot or mostly text-based presentations? Or do you bring in videos, songs, and stuff like that? Length of the presentation, audience participation. Do you consider your audience to participate? Do you have an interactive presentation kind of presentation? Masterclass does not have any audience participation. So if you're designing for a masterclass kind of lecture, it will be different if you design for a real-time lecture. And then examples to illustrate certain points. I think this is pretty straightforward, as long as you know what I'm talking about. Now, how can you know what is the knowledge, what experiences does my audience have? How can I know how can I get this information? How can I get this information? Now,
By asking questions.
yeah, go ahead, Adam.
By asking questions and giving them exams, for example.
By asking them questions, giving them surveys. We studied the research methods in chapter. How do you collect your requirements? Okay, so interview a cross section of a target group. You bring in 2-3 people and you assume that this represents the whole population. Give out questionnaires, carry out a market research, and that's it. Observation, interview, questionnaires, stuff like that. We studied the research methods in chapter 7. You can use any of those methods depending on your scenario. Okay. The book gives 2 case studies regarding giving a sample presentation to an audience. All right. You can read this on your own. It's not a big deal, you know. If you go to 9.1.1, so it talks about, you know, two groups of people giving a presentation to two groups of people and what you're supposed to do. And there's an exercise. I'll give this exercise to you later. And then another example. If you give a presentation to adults or children of primary school, primary memory. All right. So you give a presentation to 2 sections of your audience, sales team, and then the potential customers. The book says that you are trying to promote a new version of a phone. So if you give the presentation to your sales team, how your presentation will be. So your sales team should have some technical knowledge behind it. So you're considering that. And they will more be interested in the profitability of each sale, right? However, the potential customers, they are interested in the price of the product and the features of the product. So you can see that based on your audience, it changes. Any questions? Nine point two, legal, moral, ethical, cultural appreciation. Appreciation means consideration in this case, okay? So whatever you do, you have to consider your legal part. Is it legal for me to do this? Is it moral? Is it ethical? And does the culture accept what I do if I do it? The first thing that this section talks about is copyright. Something that is not, unfortunately, implemented in our country. Software copyright, I don't know why, but it's not implemented. It's kind of a privilege. We can get all of these very expensive softwares for free. And nobody can charge us or fine us. Anyways. But if a software is copyrighted, it is illegal to make a copy of that software. Use the software on a network unless you have a license. I can't make my computer a server and connect it to all of the other computers in the lab so that all of the other computers can use the Microsoft Word that I've bought. That's what AYS does. AYS, they have everything like browsers, the Google Chrome, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office, like Word, Access, Excel, all of these things, along with some other software like Photoshop and AutoCAD and stuff like that. They have all of that installed on the AYS server, and all of the computers who are connected to the local network will be able to access these softwares because they don't have these softwares installed on the computer. In fact, you cannot store anything. They don't even have a hard drive. The computers used in the labs, in the library, they don't. You cannot save anything on the computer. You will have a drive in the server, on the server, so you will be able to store very limited storage though, but you have your own drive anyways on the server, which you can access it if you're connected to the server through any computer. But I don't know if they have the license or not, but you can't do such a thing if the software is copyrighted. unless you have the networked version of the software. You can't use the source code of a copyrighted software in another software without permission. Bring in some of the code, like 50 lines of code from this software, and then use it in your own software. That is so bad. You can never do that if the software is copyrighted. You can't rent out the software package without permission from the copyright holders. You cannot use the name of the copyrighted software on another software without permission. This happens a lot especially in logos. You can't use somebody else's logo, a registered logo, for your own company. They tried to open a McDonald's here in Sully. Actually, they opened it in, I think it was the year 2003 or 2004. They opened the McDonald's, which is now Talari Salim. Not Talari, was it Talari Salim or the one next to Talari Salim? Anyways.
Is the one next to Talari Salim, miss?
Yeah, the one next to Talari Salim. It was written Madonald or Madonald, something like that. They changed the name, but they used the same logo of McDonald's. They made sure that they closed it. I don't know if they charged them or not, but they closed the place. So you can't do that. So if a software is copyrighted, you can't do this. But as a company, they have to take precautions in order to make sure that these points are followed, or try to minimize the copyright infringement. How do they do that? Methods that companies take to avoid copyright infringement: make the user agree to certain terms and conditions, enter a product key when installing the software. We all can relate to these things. It's not new. Making use of holograms to identify the original copies of a product. You know holograms. When you buy a CD, if it's original, it will have some sort of hologram, like an image that appears and disappears. It makes if that image is on the CD or on the package, that means it's a legitimate copy of the package.
Miss,
Bala.
about the hologram. اگر copy به چونی بزنی یا original یا
Hologram copy نکره. There's no way you can copy the hologram.
Okay.
You can fake it, but it is obvious that it's fake. The original copy is obvious that it's original. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
It doesn't happen here. We prefer to use the fake copy because it's cheaper and sometimes even free. Okay. Some software packages run only if the CD or DVD is in the drive. This avoids network uses of the software. So I think this is pretty straightforward. You put the CD, DVD into the drive, then it will work. You cannot make your computer a hotspot and somebody else comes, uses your own resources, like that software, because they don't have the CD or DVD in their drive. This happens a lot, actually. It's very commonly used, this kind of implementation. And if you fail to follow the copyright laws, there are legal penalties for the cases of copyright infringement. The money that they charge you is insane. If you buy the software, you might pay $100, $200. If you go ahead and crack the software, they might charge you like at least $10,000, at least. So you better go and buy. Just pay the $100 and get the copy. You can also update it, and it's better to use the original version rather than the fake one. But it doesn't apply on our country, and which is a very big issue. We don't have any laws, any specific laws regarding software copyright and patents and stuff like that. IT related. Okay, that was it. That's it for today. Oh, we do have a
Could
lot
you
of
go
time
back?
left.
1 second, I have something to write.
We have a lot of time.
Oh, thank you, miss.
We have biology in 2 hours. As if
Was
you...
that it?
Okay, let me take registration. Do not go because I have something to tell you. Unrelated to this, but I have something to tell you. Then,
Miss, should I stop recording?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.